Hello, internet friends. My name is Bay, and welcome to the Legion Beta second pass look at the Demonology Warlock. We are joined here tonight by Thal'kiel, the skull of the Manari, as he phases from existence and then comes back next to us. I believe the AFK rotation that if you stand still too long, the skull starts just floating around you, kind of like how frost decays freeze the ground underneath them, or Resto Shamans start doing like the water praying thing. Thal'kiel starts wandering around, and also, of course, our schizophrenic Felgar, who just keeps looking back and forth like someone's behind him, or he's looking for Pokemon. Probably the former. I don't know. But Demonology Warlock is a little bit crazy, honestly. It is... I had talked about it back in my first pass that it was... I'm gonna see if he walks around with me. See, he like randomly blinks and follows me? Yeah. It was very much like you're a train conductor and your train is full of passengers, but your passengers are all demons, and you have to make sure everyone has a ticket, continuously getting their tickets over and over and over and over and over again, and then just keep summoning more and more and more demons on this never-ending train. In a way, people were also talking about how it's kind of like the Affliction Warlock, except that your dots have like animations. Like one of your dots is you summon imps, which is just kind of like corruption with a cast time. Or that your UA is kind of like summoning Dreadstalkers, but Dreadstalkers have like a physical manifestation. It's not exactly that cut and dry, but overall, the Demonology Warlock is summon demons, more demons make you stronger, and you make your demons stronger, and it continues. Ad infinitum. It just goes and goes and never stops, and you never slow down, and it's just this never-ending cascade. But passive-wise, we have Soul Link, where 20% of all the damage you take is taken by your demon pet instead. So that'll be your Felguard. Normally, the Felguard is the pet of choice for the Demonology Warlock baseline. Of course, you can have like a Doomguard or an Inferno all the time, borrowing talents. And you can have a Succubus for CC or a Fel Hunter for some interrupt control. Of course, your Voidwalker can tank. I compared the stats between the Voidwalker and the Infernal, and the Infernal is slightly stronger tanky-wise. It has the same HP, and then your Imp, of course, for the self-heal or just having an Imp out. But I don't know what the damage difference is between all the different pets. I was going to assume that because your Felguard has Fel Brostorm, that it's the best DPS pet, mostly just because of that. And then your Soul Leech will also heal you for an amount. Let's take off our Thal'kiel here, because he's messing with some tooltips, and he'll, of course, fade away into nothingness. Your Soul Leech will heal you for 25%, and your pet for 50% of the absorption it grants. So Soul Leech is here for every single Warlock, that all single target damage done by you and your minions will grant you and your pet. Your pet is always going to be your main minion whenever it says pet. Otherwise, it's all your other demons that you summon. So, Shadowy Shields that absorb 10% of the damage dealt for 15 seconds, up to a 15% of your maximum health. So that means that 10% of the damage you and your pet do, single target-wise, will give you an Absorb Shield, but then 25% of that for you, or 50% of that 10%, will also heal you and your pet. It's very, very light healing. Let's drop down here and start casting some spells. It's very, very light healing. Like, if I just throw some Shadow Bolts off here, you're going to see the healing. Maybe. I think I need to take damage for it. Let me take some damage here. Also, do know that Life Tap, because you have Soul Link all the time, you do Life Tap and some damage goes into your pet. It shares damage with you. So your Life Tap is actually a little bit easier to use on the Demonology Warlock. But if I throw off some Shadow Bolts here, it's very light healing. I mean, the shield is larger than the healing you gain, but that's just one spell, right? If I just get in here and I start just casting spells, right, you're going to eventually see that the healing is going to kind of scale out of control just because you have so many sources of damage happening. You have all your pets doing damage, your pet's doing damage, you're doing damage. So, and of course, when you empower everything, they do more and more damage faster and faster and faster. So, of course, there's that. But it's not insignificant. It's just not very significant. It just kind of happens. But that's the overall way that those spells interact. I did find out when I was just going to kill some mobs a little while ago while testing is that the 110 mobs destroy your Felguard. Like, I had to use Health Funnel a lot, which may be a little easier with the Infernal because he's tankier. He has more defensive stats, but I'm not sure exactly. So your mastery is Master Demonologist, where Demonic Empowerment will also, excuse me, increase the damage of your demons by a flat percentage. So what is that, by the way? That is your new main bread and butter spell. You know why I talked about getting tickets from all your passengers? This is you being the ticket master on the train all the time. So this costs some mana. All the spells for Warlocks are all kind of expensive, so that's why you have to use Life Tap in the rotation, but more on that later. So you empower your active demons with dark energies, increasing their haste and health by 50% for 12 seconds. Little purple animation hits all the current ones. You get the haste, the health, and the damage increase, of course, from your mastery. The haste and health is never, ever buffed by anything except your artifact weapon. So I'll show you, of course, that when I go through the artifact weapon. But Demonic Empowerment is basically whenever you summon demons, you empower them. And whenever you summon more demons, you empower them. And guess what? When you summon more demons, that's right, you empower them. There's a bit of a back and forth on how the rotation works. So Called Dreadstalkers is your main damaging source. Like these do damage, of course, is still being tuned, right? But your two spells you use soul shards on. All warlocks use soul shards now. But Called Dreadstalkers costs 2 soul shards, 2-second cast time reduced by haste, 15-second cooldown, where you summon 2 ferocious Dreadstalkers to attack the target for 12 seconds. So they only last for 12 seconds on a 15-second cooldown. Normally, you're going to always want to make sure you have soul shards available to summon them on cooldown. What they do is they will spawn and leap at the target and cause an attack called Shadow Bite, or Dread Bite, sorry, my bad. Well, it's Shadow Damage called Dread Bite. They will do this immediate attack. This cannot be amplified by your Demonic Empowerment because it happens instantly when they get summoned. It's kind of like the initial landing of the dot, basically, right? Because Dreadstalkers are essentially an animated damage over time spell. But they are your main source of actual damage. Now, when you empower them, of course, they gain that 50% haste and more damage, so their damage, of course, as you can just tell in the combat log here, ramps up rather significantly. But the other way you use your soul shards is to use Hand of Gul'dan, which costs 1 to 4 and will summon 1 to 4 imps per soul shard you use. No cooldown on Hand of Gul'dan, but it will call down a demonic meteor full of wild imps. Wild imps, keep that in mind, they have a different name than your actual imp for other spell purposes, which burst forth and attack the target for 12 seconds. Also, 12-second duration. But again, no cooldown on Hand of Gul'dan. It'll deal Shadow Flame damage based on how many shards you're using. My shards all refunded there because I was technically not in combat. That's a weird bug. You don't actually spend shards when you're out of combat, going into combat for some reason. So there's a whole bunch of imps. But the more shards you use, 1, 2, 3, or 4, will do more damage on impact. It's an 8-yard radius, and the 4 wild imps summon at the target, and they will just do Fell Firebolt at the target they are summoned on. If you summon your Hand of Gul'dan on a mob that dies, the imps will change targets. But if you summon your imps on a target that does not die and is alive for the entire duration, the imps will not change targets. They will not pet assist you, for example. They attack what they are summoned on. And again, of course, when you demonically empower them, 1, 2, 3, and 4 soul shards, or I'm disconnected live in this video. That's going to happen. The servers have been incredibly unstable today, but I need to record this video, so I'll just log right back in, which just seems like it's a database thing. I don't know why. That's right. Amplified music while I'm trying to relog. But the imps always attack what is in front of you. A login queue, of course. Wonderful. There we go. This shouldn't take very long. It's just the kicks have been happening like frequently. This may happen again in this video, which I apologize for, but I have to record. I have to make sure I fix my refresh rate real quick, because this is a really fun bug right now, which is awkwardly annoying. But now I know how to do it before I get into the actual game, because of But alright, we're back in. Not a problem. But that was a bit of a contentious point, because if you summon imps on the wrong target, which again is just a skill cap, then they're going to attack that target and not the proper one. So be sure you are... Yeah, that weird... I mean, I could have been... I have Soul Conduit currently on right now because it's the only talent I can take that doesn't really interact anyway and that pops up with anything crazy. But then, of course, I want to show you if I get the empowered Fel Firebolts. Let's have my demon attack for a little bit just to clear the combat log for you. There we go. So now if I summon my imps and empower them, the damage amp, of course, is a little bit crazy because they're going to cast their Fel Firebolts even faster, and of course, they'll do more damage. Now, one thing to note about the empowerment mechanic with your imps and whatnot is that we talk about now secondary stats, right? Where your stats lie, crit haste versus mastery. Now, you might think mastery right off the bat because of the flat damage increase on all your demons, which is, of course, going to happen to every demon you summon. But we're trying to figure out during the stream that there might be like a point of haste you want to gain. Like, there might be like a haste breakpoint, for example, that factors in your imps because they have a cast time on their Fel Firebolt. If you have not enough haste when they're empowered to have them finish a cast of Fel Firebolt and they despawn during a cast time, you're not optimized that little window of time, right? So there may be like a mathematical point where you want enough haste on your character that then is, of course, impacted by your artifact and the empowered demons, demonic empowerment, that will make your imps cast their last Fel Firebolt and then vanish. And that would be like right in that bread and butter zone, right? Like when the haste is just right. So it might be haste to a breakpoint and then mastery, crit, versatility. Versatility was also an awkward, contentious point too. Like, is it better than crit? Because crit is fine, but you're just doing a lot of flat damage and amplifying the flat damage of your pets, and having more versatility will just increase that even further. But again, versatility does scale... Yep, the servers today. Versatility does scale slower than every other secondary stat, which is obviously a problem. That's why you would take, your crit over your versatility, because you actually gain more benefit from it all the time. Again, I will log back in. Sadly, this is going to happen during the live testing too, so it's just unfortunate that it's happening right now. Oh, disconnected completely. Well then, we will try one more time. But overall, the Demonology Warlock has what I would say when I test other specs outside of Enhancement Shaman, I always look at these talents and I'm like, holy crap, there's like so many options here. And of course I get told by actual players of the spec that it's like, no, you don't have those options. And there's like one spec for AoE and one spec for single target, which I guess is fine. But I always look at it with a different perspective, because when I was doing demonology testing, like 5 hours or more on the VOD, you can see, linked below in the description box, of course, the notes, and my social media and all that good stuff down there. I forgot to open that up with the video because I was concerned that I would be disconnected, which of course now has happened twice, so yay! But check below. The description box below has all the information you might have questions for that are like, I wonder if he has this listed. So, alright, we're back in, again, for like the 19th time. It may happen again, so get ready. It's just like Demonology Warlock is too powerful. It's overloading the servers. But the components involved here are very simple, but I wonder if there are like really that many options, because your customization with this spec is pretty rampant compared to other ones. But outside of that, of course, you have your Dreadstalkers, like we went over, Hand of Gul'dan. Your Shadow Bolt is mana cost plus a long cast time as well, 2 seconds reduced by haste. It does very light shadow damage, but always gives you a soul shard whenever you use it. 1 soul shard per cast. The damage breakdown might be like 60-40 or like 65-35, where the larger portion is coming from, of course, your summons, your actual pets, not from you, the Warlock. So a lot of your spells don't do like crazy damage. Additionally, soul generation can be done through Doom, just called Doom now, not called Curse of Doom. But Doom is it's kind of like UA in a way, where you inflict impending doom upon the target, causing a large amount of shadow damage after 20 seconds, reduced by haste. When it does damage, it will generate 1 soul shard. Now, if you refresh Doom, and you get that pandemic refresh, it's kind of strange that you can kind of technically feel like you have 2 Dooms rolling, because how UA works for Affliction is that you cast new UAs on existing UAs, and you add that damage into the overall dot and refresh the duration, right? You add more damage, it divides it over the 4 ticks, and puts it over the whole duration of the dot. Doom is the same way, except with that it doesn't add damage, but it adds points of time where you'll notice that it'll tick once, but the dot will still be up, and then it will tick again when it falls off. So it has like this built-in like safety net, because there are some talents that will refresh Doom. Like, see right there, it just ticked, but it's still up there, right? So I'll refresh it, but again, watch in a couple of seconds here. Go! There it goes. See? So Doom almost continuously ticks. No matter what the actual duration of Doom, if Doom is on the target will take that Doom damage every whatever amount of seconds intervals based on your haste, right? When it falls off, it'll do the damage. And then in the intervals of time when it's on the target, based on your haste, it'll take that damage as well. So that's a pretty simple way to look at it. It's going to be your only like maintenance buff yourself, because Doom is going to be incredibly important to smoothing out the rotation, giving you more soul shards, and of course works well in other talent combinations as well as cross-dotting for more damage. But your only other spell you have baseline is going to be Demon Wrath, which now Demon Wrath gets a little bit more mathy and complicated. So it costs mana per second. It will tick 3 times in that 2.8 seconds right now. Well, 3 seconds reduced by haste, dealing light amount of shadow damage to all enemies within 10 yards of any of your demons. And then Demon Wrath has a 15% chance to generate 1 soul shard. So this spell never gains more damage. No matter how many demons you have active, all that does is increases the range and the spread radius of Demon Wrath. You can have 500 demons, Demon Wrath will only tick 3 times. It radiates from all of your demons, but will only ever tick 3 times per cast. However, Demon Wrath, whenever Demon Wrath does damage, has a 15% chance to generate 1 soul shard. This means the more targets you're actually hitting per tick all have 15% chances to give you 1 soul shard. So the larger radius you have to make sure you're hitting all the targets you're AoEing, or even targets across the room, for example, all have a chance whenever it ticks and deals damage to a target, a 15% chance to give you a soul shard. But Demon Wrath is very light damage, but it's also instant, channelable, and usable while on the move. So it's kind of your only spell you can cast while moving. So it's a utility base there where you can cast this while moving to still generate some shards, and then, you know, if you need to move again, right, and then you get some more shards if you get lucky, and then you gotta move again, you know, because something's happening. Oh my god, there's poopy on the ground. So that's how Demon Wrath works, and because there's no other cast on the move spells outside of a few talents, that is your main one you can utilize to still do damage while moving and generate some soul shards to cast your spells. But again, the more targets you hit, the better it works out. But that's the DPS rotation for the most part. Summon demons through Hand of Gul'dan, summon Dreadstalkers on cooldown, unless you're doing one certain specialization, one talent layout rather, and use your command demon. Your demon will not always do its stupid Fell Brostorm by itself. So having that bound is going to be what you want to use it on, which is, of course, it's the Brostorm that has a 45-second cooldown. So outside of that, other abilities you have here, of course, you have Unending Resolve, which is 40% damage reduction and immunity to interrupt and silence effects for 8 seconds on a 3-minute cooldown. Rah, rah, angry demon face. Rah. Unending Breath, underwater breathing, plus 20% swim speed, which, of course, is incredibly important for everything, right? Summon Infernal and Doomguard are on the same 3-minute cooldown. These are your only baseline DPS cooldowns. So Doomguard for a single target lasts for 25 seconds, costs 1 soul shard, or Infernal summons and does a micro stun at the area and then radiates for fire damage for 25 seconds, 1 soul shard as well. But again, when you summon one of them, they're both on 3-minute cooldown. So, and the pet AI sometimes doesn't want to work. There he goes. Get back in there, big guy. Yeah, you could do it. Yeah. He's a big, silly goose, isn't he? Silly little stupid infernal. Destruction's next. I've heard the pet AI for Destruction's infernals are really bad. You can come over here, by the way. What are you doing? Pet AI. Hopefully they fix that out. Of course, other summon demons, of course, are still here. You still have Soulstone, usable while in combat or before combat. So it's a battle res on a 10-minute cooldown or a preemptive resurrection. 60% health, 20% mana. You have your Ritual of Summoning, of course. You can summon your TV in and summon people in. Life tap is 30% maximum mana restored at the cost of 10% max health. It's a little bit less health, of course, because your pet does take 20% of the damage from life tap, so a little bit more stable for you there. Health funnel. Sacrifice 20% of your health to return twice as much to your active demon. I use this a lot while testing on the crabs, so we'll probably see it in this video because I have to show off some talents on crabs. But Mr. Krabs. But we'll see. But this guy gets trucked. It's so bad. Fear. Fears the enemy. Disoriented them for 20 seconds. Damage may cancel the effect limit to one target, of course. Costs a ton of mana. 10% of your mana. But Fear is still, of course, the Warlock CC spell. Again, mana and stuff doesn't actually, like, count when you're entering combat for some reason. I have Kilrog. Doing I have Kilroggy things. It's looking around. Doing I have Kilrog stuff. That is still there. You can still enslave demons. You still have Drain Life, but as you are a Demonology Warlock, you're not an Affliction Warlock, your Drain Life does heal you for 600% of the damage dealt, but that's far less healing than Affliction, because it does, like, very, very little damage and okay healing, but Afflictions heals for almost double. So, but that's, of course, that's just part of the rotation, where it's for you, it's just utility. You can still cast your Demonic Gateways, of course. Demonic Gateway has a built-in reticle. All the target-based drop AoE spells now, when you're in a minimum range, it'll tell you can't do that. And of course, once you start working towards the minimum range, this is 8 yards from the target, or from me, then you can just drop it there. Or if you go really far away with your mouse, it'll just snap to the maximum cast distance of your Demonic Gateway. Woo! And then you can take it with a 90-second cooldown whenever you go through the Demonic Gateway. You can still create the Soul Wells, summon those Soul Wells to get people their health stones, or you can make your own health stone, of course. Dink. Does it still dink multiple times? No. Okay, good. Because that was annoying. Who remembers when the health stones would dink, 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 dink whenever you clicked on them? Whew. Pepperidge Farm remembers. Whew, boy. And then you have Banish as well. You can banish a demon, aberration, or elemental, preventing any action for 30 seconds, limit to 1, and casting Banish again on the same target will cancel the effect. But that's the main rotation. The basic of this class is to build soul shards, keep up Doom, cast your Dreadstalkers, keep your main demon, of course, and your other demons empowered. You're going to definitely have some weak auras to pay attention to all this stuff. So you're going to have some weak auras to notice your demonic empowerment timings, and of course your actual dot uptime for Curse of Doom, for example. All these little things will be what you need to pay attention to for the Demonology Warlock. But overall, I didn't empower my Dreadstalker. See, once you forget to do something, the whole thing can start falling apart. It's kind of this, again, it's a train. It never ever stops. So you cast demons, you empower demons, and forever and forever and forever. Which is kind of high maintenance-y, I guess, but it's very much the fantasy. You're summoning demons, your demons do your bidding, and then you empower them once they're in the physical plane. So that is how it all works out for you. We'll toss on the Skull of the Manari, with the Spine of Thal'kiel is the free part. That's the dagger that comes with the entire... Let me put this out real quick. So it literally is a spine with like a little daggery bit on the end here. Very warlocky, ritualistic dagger. Almost has like a Warhammer 40k Chaos Cultist insignia in the middle there. I miss playing 40k. Good times. But Thal'kiel is actually the skull here. Thal'kiel will talk to you, similar to how Aluneth, the arcane mage, will actually talk to you as well. He has a flappy jaw problem, so he always is flapping his jaw, which never stops. Won't stop, can't stop. But as well, here is my macro for the artifact weapon. You can just copy that down right there and add that to your repertoire of macros going into Legion. We updated a little bit right now that you have to make sure that the icon is the question mark, because what happens is you do show tooltip 16 with the hashtag, and it'll actually show the icon of your actual artifact here, your main weapon slot 16. So that's just pretty nice. But I bet you can probably take it to 17, I want to say, because you can open your artifact on either weapon, right? For the... Yeah. You could probably change that to 17 for the Warlock due to the fact that they have... Let's see. Save. Yeah, there he goes. Now you can actually have Thal'kiel's face, which is right there as well. Oh. He's always going to be looking at you. And of course, when your actual artifact skin does change, as you gain different skins and colorations, this background here does change as well. But you start right here with Thal'kiel's Consumption. 2-second cast, not affected by haste. 45-second cooldown. Thal'kiel gains 10% of the life. It has actually maximum health. That's a tooltip that I hope gets updated, that it's 10% max health from all of your demon servants and unleashes a blast of shadow damage at your current target equal to the life he stole. So, before you ever cast Thal'kiel's Consumption every 45 seconds, you need to make sure you empower your demons, because Demonic Empowerment, again, gives your demons max health. You're seeing it's a 56% right now. That is the first unlock right here over to the left, Summoner's Prowess, which increases the haste and health provided by 6%. So 2, 4, and 6% overall. So make sure you always empower your demons before you use this ability. Now, I have a screenshot in my notes that has me getting like a 1.6 million crit or something like that, which is actually kind of low, because the more demons you spawn, the more this damage will do. So I'm going to summon just my regular demons here, which is 2 Dreadstalkers and 4 Imps, empower them, and then we'll use Thal'kiel's Consumption on this poor... So 531,000 damage. You'll see right here that the consumption hits my Felguard, the 2 Dreadstalkers, and 4 Wild Imps. So you have enough time to do a little bit more than that, of course, if you need to. Where you can have like 2 Hand of Gul'dans out, you can have your Dreadstalkers out, you can have your Summon Demon out, you can have your... That's one of the other artifact perks right there when he goes over there and screams. And of course your Felguard. You can have 4, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15... 4, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. You can have 15 demons maximum, I want to say. Until you get more haste, I think that's the cap. Which, that would entail that you have 2 casts of Hand of Gul'dan. You have a talent that we'll show later called Improved Dreadstalkers. You'll have the summon Dark Glare, and you'll summon your Doomguard. That would be 8 Imps, 2 additional Imps riding 2 Dreadstalkers, your Felguard, your Doomguard, and your Dark Glare. That would be 15. Yeah, 15 in total demons. And you'll empower all of them, and then hopefully have enough time, because again, where is it? Thal'kiel's Consumption is not affected by haste. So you have to cast the whole thing while those demons are alive. And the hardest window of time, of course, is to get those Hand of Gul'dans out, because all those only last, and your Dreadstalker only last 12 seconds. But if you can do that, like during Heroism most likely, or Bloodlust, then you can have a gigantic single target damaging ability. But because it's only a 45-second cooldown, it has like a high maintenance cost, because you're always paying attention to summoning demons and buffing demons, and then also making sure you don't forget to use this when you need to. So it's very situational that you have to be ready to use this very often, because 45 seconds comes up pretty quick in raid encounters. So Breath of Thal'kiel is 5% increased fire and shadow damage. So that'll increase your shadow damage, it'll increase the fire of your imps, etc, etc. Again, over here is Summoner's Prowess, 6% more haste and health from Demonic Empowerment. The Doom of Azeroth is 30% more damage dealt by your Doom spell. Sharpened Dreadfangs has increased the critical strike chance of Dreadstalkers by 15%. Perks like this kind of lead me to believe that crit is not an incredibly important stat for you. Again, the haste to a breakpoint, then mastery, and then maybe crit or verse, and then the other. Soul Skate is when your health drops below 35%. Soul Link increases to split 40% of all damage you take with your demon pet. So now when you go super low, let's go over here and knock this guy around. You gain more Soul Link. There's no buff that shows up for this, but it does update the tooltip in your combat log to show you it does. So there we go. See, I'm dropping below, and now Soul Link in my log says 40% of the damage you take is on your demon instead. You can kind of see this with life tapping. Like, I'm only taking 88,000 damage, right? If I get out of combat real quick here, if my demon will come join me. Now, if I heal myself back up with a bandage, for example, so I was taking 88,000 damage from that life tap, right? 10% on the max health, reduced by the Soul Link. Now I hit it, and I take 117. So it is a pretty significant passive damage reduction. So if there's like gigantic AoEs that fly out there during a raid encounter and you dip low, you'll then have a little window of time where you have more DR, which is pretty significant, honestly. That's a lot of damage reduction. 40% to your pet, which you may have to watch your pet in raid combat and give it some heals. So hopefully your healers will actually throw some triage on that, you know, a little sprinkling of some rejuves and renewing mists, you know. Firm Resolve is reduces the cooldown of an ending resolve by 30 seconds. So now it's a 2 minute and 30 second cooldown. So 2.5 on the cooldown. Of course, the tooltip still rounds to 3, but it's actually 2 minutes and 30 seconds. A little bit more damage reduction right there, of course. Legion Wrath has increased the damage dealt by Demon Wrath by 30%, which is fine. It does very little damage anyway. So give you a little bit more of a buff is, of course, fine. You're moving around, stuff like that. Legion Wrath, Dirty Hands, increases the damage dealt by Hand of Gul'dan by 15%, which is fine. That's one of your major spells, so its damage is going to be one of your top sources overall because you're going to be casting it a lot as there's no cooldown. But one of your main sources of damage because Shadow Bolt does like nothing. So I imagine Doom might be your #1 source of damage as the actual Warlock. Then probably Hand of Gul'dan, then Shadow Bolt, I imagine. Because Doom does a lot of damage. Doom Doubled, which is also why it does a lot of damage, is that Doom has a chance to deal double damage. I'm back in combat again for some dumb reason. Get out of here! So, Doom Doubled, or Double Doom, as it is basically just a perk that gives it a chance to crit without being a critical strike. Now, I have a screenshot of this in my notes. Double Doom can crit. So if Doom doubles and then crits, it hits for, at least right now with my current gear, 500,000 damage, roughly. So it can, of course, but it has to... I don't know what it is. Maybe it's listed in the WoW database, but on WoWDB. But if it does double... Oh, right there! Yeah! So here is a regular Doom, here is a double Doom, and here is a double Doom crit. So double, because this is a double Doom right here, which is just a crit, basically, right? But this is a double, that's the, that's so refreshing, because normally when I try to test things in videos, it's like never ever happens. So there, right there, 566,000 damage. Double Doom does not give you double shards. Put that out there. Doom, when it deals damage, period, gives you one shard, but double Doom is just a crit without being a critical strike, but double Dooms can crit. That's why I think Doom is probably your #1 source of damage over the course of an encounter because of this talent right here, most likely. Infernal Furnace increases the damage dealt by your Wild Imp's Fire Bolts by 30%. That does, of course, stack a little bit with your Breath of Thal'kiel. Maw of Shadows increases the critical strike chance of your Shadow Bolt by 15%. Again, so many crit components to give you a little bit more crit because I don't think you're going to stack much of it. Open Link increases the healing done by Soul Link by 30%. Earlier on, you saw the 32% and 65%, so this is a 30% multiplicative bonus on the actual Soul Leech healing, so just a little bit more survivability for you. And then Imp Orator. Oh, get ready. There's more of those. And if you don't already guess what the YouTube comment game is going to be, increase the critical strike chance of your Wild Imp's Firebolts by 35%. So they're going to crit a lot. And again, more reason I think you're not going to stack much crit yourself. Which is why I wonder if versatility is actually better as your third secondary stat. Because I don't know. I honestly have no idea. Because they're going to gain even more and more and more crits. Look at all these crits. Because they're going to have my crit plus 35%. They've got almost 50% crit right now. So that's a huge damage increase to your imps, which is going to be probably why they're going to eke out that they're your best DPS spell. Dreadstalkers are great, but mathematically wise, I wonder if your Hand of Gul'dan is much more important But again, of course, it comes down to numbers, which are not done yet. So that is going to be the skull. You're going to most likely, based on what I thought during testing, is you're going to probably start here. You're going to grab this. You're going to grab Doom of Azeroth. You're going to grab your Imperator. You're going to grab your Open Link. And you're going to grab Stolen Power. This thing kind of triggers me. So, but it's the first Golden Dragon of your 3 that actually is like a direct damage increase. There's no RNG here, except that RNG on just you having imps. So when your wild imps cast Firebolt, you gain an application of Stolen Power. This is not shown anywhere on your UI. The only way you see Stolen Power, after your imps have cast, 100 Firebolts, your next Shadow Bolt will deal 100% increased damage. Or your Demon Bolt for later on, right? So, but this will pop up after you've had 100 Firebolts cast. On average, it's every, 5 to 6 Hand of Gul'dan's. But there's no actual stack that it shows you. It will pop up, which I'll show you right now. It will pop up once you actually... Whoops, missed that empowerment. It will show up when you actually have the proc, which I'm trying to make sure I watch for. Which is kind of why it's super obnoxious. Because it doesn't show you, a stacking buff. It just will eventually show up. It should be right around now. There it is, right there, see? So, it pops up. It'll show you on your cast bar that Shadow Bolt, this little light up mechanic there. And then boom, double damage Shadow Bolts. It's every about 4 to 6 Hand of Gul'dan's, because the more haste you have, the more fireballs they cast, or firebolts, sorry, the more stolen power you will gain. But it's the first one that is on the left side that you can get to immediately, that actually has a direct damage increase, and you'll go down here, you grab Mob Shadows, you'll grab your Infernal Furnace, you'll get your Doom doubled most likely, and then you have the Expendables. When your wild imps expire or die, your other demons are inspired and gain 1% additional damage, stacking up to 10 times. It's basically free, permanent 10% damage increase on your Felguard. And there are ways you can give this to your other pets, of course. If you desync your cast times of Hand of Gul'dan and Dreadstalkers, your imps will die, buffing your Dreadstalkers. Or there's a talent I can show later on that you can actually use to buff your new imps. Only by 4%, but the Expendables, because it's kind of gamey and really only impacts your main pet, is kind of why this is going to be your second choice, because you can control it. But now you come back over here to Thal'kiel's Discord. So this is Shadow Bolt or Doom Bolt. Will sometimes enrage Thal'kiel, causing him to teleport to the enemy and scream for random shadow damage at the enemy for over 6 seconds. I say random because it's just an RPPM system, right? There he goes. It's probably 0.7 RPPM, I imagined, once per minute. But it's only 87,000 over 6 seconds. That's just barely more than you just chain casting your Shadow Bolts. It is some AoE. It doesn't mean you have to utilize AoE, or use Shadow Bolts or Doom Bolts in AoE situations to make sure this actually procs now and then. But it's probably the weakest one because it's just random. And if it's only once per minute, or even if it's 2 per minute, it's If the RPPM on this, you can correct me in the comments below, if the RPPM on Thal'kiel's Discord, which I didn't know he had a Discord channel, I wonder if it's premium. And we'll get the link for that. It's a bad joke, I know, but whatever. I wonder how many times this will actually happen. And if it happens more often, it might be better to go for first. But on this side, you gain crit for Dreadstalkers, and you gain Soul Skin. Where on this side, you gain passive Demonic Empowerment bonus and Imperator. So, there's so much more power on the left side of the skull, I feel like. So, I really think that Stolen Power down to the Expendables and then back through here to Thal'kiel's Discord probably the best bet. And you can get, Legion Wrath last, for example, and you get Dirty Hands last. Doom of Azeroth is going to be really good with Doom doubled, so make sure those get on the way there. But I do believe that's going to be the path for the artifact. Again, this is your Paragon perk. 5% increased damage done when you get this first rank, and then there are 19 more ranks behind the scenes that will give you a total of 10% more damage for 15% in total. This is the end game progression of the artifact, as it were. It's meant to be a thing you start working on after you're all maxed out. It can only be unlocked after you're 34 or 34. All right, talent-wise, I'm going to go over your utility talents first, and then we'll start going over talents one at a time. I've been doing over the last couple of videos, I'll show you a build, but for the Warlock, because there are so many small moving parts with these talents, I'm going to show you all the talents in a row, and then I'll show you some builds. because there are some that are very definitively different than others and how your like button presses and your priority list work out. So Shadow Fury, we'll start out right here. It is a short cast time where it's a 8-yard, 4-second AoE stun, which many people are kind of annoyed that Shadow Fury is not instant anymore, but many classes have had their mobility and their CC cut back in Legion, mostly because it was getting out of hand. So 30 seconds cooldown on Shadow Fury. You have Mortal Coil as well, which is kind of, 45-second cooldown, 20-yard range only. This is a 30-yard range. You horrify an enemy target into fleeing, incapacitating them for 3 seconds, and healing you for 11% of your maximum health. So a single target CC. It's the old Death Coil. Still around, though. And probably your best one is Demon Skin, where your Soul Leech absorption now passively recharges at a rate of 1% of your maximum health every second. And the max absorb now can go up to 20% of your max health. So you can have a larger Soul Leech built up. Soul Leech will also continuously stack over and over and over and over and over again, forever and ever. So combining Demon Skin with Soul Link and the healing from Soul Leech that the Soul Link gives you is a lot of extra sustain for the Warlock. Of course, it applies to your pet as well, making him a little tankier. He gets a smaller shield, of course, because it's based on maximum health, but that helps a lot for your Infernal while you're leveling, or maybe even your Doom Guard, your Fellow Guard when you're leveling and whatnot. So Demon Skin is super good. You also have Burning Rush, which is down here. So you get a 50% movement speed increase that hurts you for 5% of your maximum health. This is ignores the Soul Leech shield. It only hurts you. It will not go into the shield. That'd be OP. So every 1 second, and movement impairing effects may not reduce you below 100% of your normal movement speed. Lasts until canceled. You have Dark Pact, which is probably going to be your best bet for everything. So Dark Pact is a 1-minute cooldown where you sacrifice 20% of your demon's current health to shield you for 400% of the sacrificed health for 20 seconds. Again, empowerment gives your demon more HP, so a larger Dark Pact shield. Only 1 million shielding, no big deal. And Dark Pact, from what I know, is not a magic effect. You cannot dispel Dark Pact. If you have no demon to sacrifice the health from, you will health is sacrificed instead, usable while suffering from control impairing effects. So Dark Pact is huge. It's massive for the Demonology Warlock. It's just ridiculously strong, because you can buff your pet's health by 56% and then pull 20% away from it, and then 400% multiply that for the giant shield. And lastly, Demonic Circle is right here. It's weird now. When my Dark Pact cools down, I'll show you why it's weird. Everything is on the same button. So it's a very short cast time. You can have only one Demonic Circle out, but it'll last for 6 minutes, allowing you to cast it again to teleport to its location and remove all movement slowing effects. The problem is, though, again, is that Demonic Circle is all the same button now. So you have to make a macro or like click off the actual Demonic Circle 6-minute buff, that tree though, to actually move the circle. It can be in line of sight of your circle too. It's like right here. So yeah, you got, I do believe the teleport should be 30 yards or 40? Doesn't actually say. I don't remember. 30 or 40, but you have to be in line of sight with something like that. Or it could be actually 20 yards or 30. It's probably 30 yards. Wham. But again, now that it's down right there, you can't, like, how do I move it? There's no like move. I don't know why they did this, because monks have transcendence, like they plate their transcendence down and they have transcendence transfer. I don't know why Demonic Circle doesn't have 2 buttons associated with it. I don't know why. You can turn it off and replace it, like, you know, forever and ever and ever, no problem. But you'll need to make your own cancel aura macro to cancel aura Demonic Circle and then recast it again. So it's weird, but again, mobility being cut back a little bit on every class, so now you have to make a different choice to have a sprint, a teleport, or a gigantic shield. All right. I have Shadow Flame attached right here because I want to go over the intricacies of Shadow Flame a little bit. Apparently, this works like your current Hand of Gul'dan. It is a 14-second recharge, where you lob a ball of Shadow Flame at the target, dealing an amount of Shadow Flame damage instantly, and then another amount, larger amount, over 8 seconds. Stacks up to 3 times. Only has 2 stacks, though. So, it also gives you 1 Soul Shard when you cast the spell. This is the hardest skill cap of the 15s. All the 15 talents for every single spec in the game that I've seen always have like rotational changes. So to get a 3-stack, which is mathematically better, Shadow Flame needs to be cast as you normally would. And at about 60 to 70% of the cast being gone, you can cast it a third time. And then once your third charge comes back up, which was your first one you used, you gotta slam that thing down immediately. Get the 3rd stack. We did a lot of math on this. Overall, casting Shadow Flame one after another is about, right now with my current gear, about 90,000 damage. But if you cast Shadow Flame properly to stack it to 3 times, it's closer to 200,000 damage. Because what it does is it adds the stack amount and then refreshes the dot. So it lasts longer. But how Shadow Flame works, what I was told, is kind of like current Hand of Gul'dan, where you only use it when you have charges, and you keep the dot rolling as long as possible. So overall, you'll have Shadow Flame in the rotation half of every minute. Because it takes you, here's one application of it. And then we'll wait for it to come back around again. We'll snipe it at the very end there. And wait again. And then we do it again. Now you have to wait for both charges to come back, which takes 28 seconds. 14 seconds per charge. So it's every half a minute in your rotation gets more complicated because you have to rotate this Shadow Flame around for maximum benefit. And again, you already have to pay attention to your Dreadstalkers, to your Hand of Gul'dans, to your Soul Shard consumption, to your your Curse of Doom, to your Demonic Empowerments, to stacking your demons to be able to use Thal'kiel's consumption properly. So that's why Shadow Flame is going to easily be the hardest talent to use, but most likely the most damaging of these 3. But that depends on, of course, your playstyle and, of course, what the fight demands. Shadowy Inspiration is much easier, which I think I like this one a lot. I like the feel of this. So Demonic Empowerment also causes your next Shadow Bolt to be instant. So that means that you can build up Soul Shards faster. Every Demonic Empowerment gives you an instant Shadow Bolt. Or Doom Bolt. Or Demon Bolt, sorry. Doom Bolt is what your stupid Doomguard casts. So this gives you just more Soul Shards on the global. Just gives you a quality of life improvement, so you can always have additional Soul Shards available when you're ever going to cast spells. I'm floating in Soul Shards right now because I had Soul Conduit proc like ridiculously right there. But this just helps speed up the rotation a little bit due to the fact that Shadow Bolt's a very long cast time. The Shadow Inspiration has a lot of little extra bonuses there. I think this is a really fun talent. It makes the rotation feel a lot smoother because you gain those Soul Shards faster. But I could be wrong. I don't know. That's how it works. Demonic Culling, on the other hand, makes Shadow Bolt have a 20% chance, or Demon Bolt, and Demon Wrath a 5% chance to, on each target you do damage to make your next call Dreadstalkers cost no Soul Shards. So this is how some of the builds will be changing. Because Shadow Flame is very single target oriented. So is Shadowy Inspiration, because you gotta be like making sure you're demonically empowering and whatever going forward. But Demonic Culling is... This is going to be a thing that's worked well for AoE builds. Because when you're doing an AoE build, you're not going to want to use Dreadstalkers. But having them be free is a big benefit. Because they cost no... They still have a cast time, but they will not cost you Soul Shards. Which is very important. And now this changes the rotation. So now you would actually go back-to-back with the proc to Imps into Dreadstalkers and then Empower. Whereas the other rotation you just saw me doing over there with Shadowy Inspiration is you would summon your Imps, then Empower, because you want to rotate Empowers back and forth, because then you gain the benefit of having, like you can Imps, Empower, free Shadow Bolt, Dreadstalkers, Empower, free Shadow Bolt. Whereas Demonic Culling, with the proc up, when you actually cast your Dreadstalkers, you can go back-to-back. You can cast your Imps, and then your Dreadstalkers, with the proc, of course, if you get lucky enough to have those work out, it's only 20% chance, to then only Empower after you summoned everything. This does give your Imps a little more downtime on the Empowerment, which I'm not sure if that's supposed to be the optimal amount. But if you're using AoE, which I'll go through a little bit more here in a minute, When you're using AoE, you don't really care as much about your Imp's firebolt damage because of Implosion. So this entire tier real quick here, Implosion, Imp-Proved Dreadstalkers, and Imp Pending Doom are all Imp-oriented. So Implosion, which I'm going to test live on this video to see if they fix this bug, that I think is a bug, but it could not be. This will, demonic forces suck all of your wild imps toward the target and then cause them to violently explode, dealing Shadow Flame damage per imp to all enemies within 8 yards. So this build here, you don't want to use shards on Dreadstalkers, which almost makes demonic calling mandatory, or it helps it a lot, because you want to use shards on summoning Hand of Gul'dan's. So what you want to do, because you can do this in multiple ways, you can cast 2 Hand of Gul'dan's back to back, and then explode your imps. It's so satisfying. So you'll get 8 stacks of the expendables immediately, of course, on your dude. Your dude's gonna have your Felguard here is gonna have 10 stacks all the time anyway, but the expendables, the implosion is each imp explodes for that Shadow Flame damage to every target around. So this is 8 explosions here. So implosion, even though it was recently nerfed, like it was toned down in actual damage, whoops, is still incredibly powerful on single target. Because what you want to do is you're going to have a weak aura or a tell me when that tracks your imp uptime. And right before they expire, you blow them up for extra damage, right? More things to pay attention to and utilize properly. Or you can do what's kind of scummy, which we're going to test right now, see if it actually works. This is how you can actually empower your other imps. So you can Hand of Gul'dan, summon your 4 imps, build up to another Hand of Gul'dan, and what happens now is that you can actually Hand of Gul'dan Implosion. Let's see if I can do it. Yep. You can Hand of Gul'dan Implosion, and these imps right now have 4 stacks. Because what happens is that I'll do it again real quick to show it again. The animation for the imp spawning is like, I was told, like 0.8 seconds after Hand of Gul'dan hits the actual target. So if you, and this is a very, very small window of time, if you mess up or like double tap your implosion, it'll kill all your imps. If you don't do it immediately after you've Hand of Gul'dan'd, you'll hit all your imps, you'll kill all 8 of them, which will do good damage, but like if I wait a little bit extra longer,
the soul of that one would be useful.
That's Thal'kiel, you'll kill all of them. Which, again, Implosion can be used rotationally for single target additional damage if you want to work around that nonsensical thing. Or it can be used for burst. You can, Hand of Gul'dan, blow him up, Hand of Gul'dan, blow him up, or Hand of Gul'dan, blow him up, right? With more haste, you'll be able to cast more. You probably get 3 casts of Hand of Gul'dan off, maybe, with other talents giving you more soul shards, which is why I also have Soul Conduit right now for this. I'll jump ahead a little bit. So Soul Conduit, every Warlock has this. Every Soul Shard you spend is a 20% chance to be refunded. So you could get lucky and Hand of Gul'dan multiple times in a row and then blow all those imps up. The problem is I don't know if that implosion on Hand of Gul'dan cast is meant to be a thing. But unless they make the imps spawn faster, it is totally going to be a thing you can do. But again, that's why you have this Demonic Calling talent, because you don't want to spend your soul shards on imps. You want to rotate them, blow up the old ones, buff the new ones rotationally. Forever. And this makes the rotation a lot more micromanagey. It also means you have to, plan your explosions around using Thal'kiel's consumption, because you don't want to blow up your imps and then use it because you're wasting damage. But you're going to have to, like the actual rotation, right? So you would want to, let's just build up to 4 here real quick, or 5. So you want to Hand of Gul'dan, Empower, and then go back to casting more Shadow Bolts. Cast your Dreadstalkers, right? We'll empower those. Then we'll cast a Hand of Gul'dan. We'll kill the other 4 imps. We'll buff our new 4 imps. Right? We'll empower those immediately when they come down here. We'll go back to throwing more Shadow Bolts off here. Hand of Gul'dan. We'll blow up those imps that are down here right now. Then we'll empower the new imps. See what I mean? Like I have out of mana. It's so much more little micromanagement to use Implosion that way. I kind of feel they have to tone down the damage more, because if they leave it like this, it's going to be used on single target. I don't think it's meant to be. They're going to make it so that when you're blowing up imps, it's good on multiple targets, but not on single target, because it's a little bit toxic. But that's Implosion. Improved Dreadstalkers, much less bag of wind coming out of me now. Your called Dreadstalkers will also summon 2 wild imps. This is how you can get more demons on the field, because your imps are literally riding your Dreadstalkers, which is pretty awesome. So you gain 4 demons for the price of 2. And these do count towards sacrificing, right? Improved Dreadstalker is very much a single target talent, most likely, just because it gives you more demons in the field for Thal'kiel's consumption, and gives you more bang for your buck on your Dreadstalker's cast, which taking Demonic Calling here might be totally fine, or Shadow Inspiration, or Shadow Flame, because you'll have the extra shards from Shadow Flame every rotation to make sure you're casting your Dreadstalkers when you need to. And Impending Doom is that Doom also summons a wild imp when it deals damage. This one by itself in this tier with no other talents taken into effect is kind of like meh. This can give you a lot of extra demons for a single target as well, but it is also based on multi-dotting. However, there's some imps right there. What's up, impies? I'll empower you. Yeah. Now, they attack whatever I think the first Doom was cast on for some reason, or a random target, because they're attacking this guy right here, which is the first one I cast Doom on, because the imps that spawned after the first imp were attacking this target, so it could be a little weird thing. But Hand of Doom. Hand of Gul'dan now applies Doom to all enemies hit. So if you're AoEing, you then Hand of Gul'dan, you get Doom out on all of these targets, you got your extra imps as well. So this, if you time it right and you have weak auras to track how many wild imps you have, Hand of Doom, Impending Doom can give you like 2 Hand of Dooms back to back, like 2 Hand of Gul'dans, and imps can plop off with Doom doing damage. There's some imps. Oh, I'm out of combat. Imps didn't spawn. Weird. Where are you at, imps? Get back in combat so the imps actually spawn. So you could, on like Scorpion, for example, Hand of Gul'dan, right? Build up, Hand of Gul'dan. You have to time this right. You know, you have 2 Hand of Gul'dans going off. Your Dooms can pop and do damage, giving you more imps as well. And then you can Thal'kiel into Scorpion. There we go. Imps, yay! So, it's... Also, the Impending Doom imps attack what you Hand of Gul'dan. Looks like I like that right there. So, this can give you a ton. Also, Hand of Doom overall is a huge quality of life improvement for the Demonology Warlock, because if you notice, there's a lot of things you have to pay attention to. The skill cap is pretty high. So if you're taking Shadow Flame, you might want to take Hand of Doom as well, even on single target, because you don't have to ever cast Doom ever again. You can take Doom off your bar, basically, unless you're going to be cross-dotting things that are far away, or different parts of an encounter where you're not going to be casting Gul'dan on them. But that, of course, comes down to the fight-by-fight basis. But Hand of Doom feels good on like a single target fight, because you never worry about Doom anymore. It's always up. And again, refreshing Doom, like I went over earlier, you're not going to lose ticks, because as long as Doom is on the target, every X amount of time based on your haste, they'll take damage from it, regardless of the actual pandemicing effect. So Hand of Doom is a lot of fun. Power Trip, this kind of synergizes well with Shadowy Inspiration, so we'll back up to that. Demonic Empowerment has a 50% chance to generate 1 Soul Shard when used in combat. In combat is important, because you can't just spam Demonic Empowerment out of combat and start the fight with Soul Shards. So the Soul Shard meta is kind of weird, because you're going to have to like start combat with no Soul Shards on most raid encounters, so you have to build up to Soul Shards on the pull, which is kind of annoying, but many other classes have resources they have to build up to anyway. Like I have to build Maelstrom on the pull, so, you know, whatever. But now again, Demonic Empowerment gives you an instant Shadow Bolt, and Demonic Empowerment can give you a free Soul Shard. So this build, and with Soul Conduit still equipped here, this build is kind of hilarious, just because it goes so fast sometimes. If you get all the procs to work all in a row, like if you get Demonic Empowerments, you get those free Shadow Bolts. Right there, see, I'll just cast more Hand of Gul'dan, why not? And if you get Soul Conduit to play nice, and of course I'm going to have Doom out here real quick, of course. I have that out there. The rotation just kind of scales out of control. Just because you get so many... Let me hit the life tap real quick here. You get so many soul shards. This build right here, I think, is probably very single target oriented. Oh, I'd take improved Dreadstalkers here as well. I didn't. Whoopsie doodle. I guess you don't have to, but let me wait to comment real quick. Combat, please. There you go. So now, this is a little bit more what I was thinking about when I started jibber-jabbering, right? So let's do some imps. We'll do an empowerment. We'll do our free shadow bolt. Oh, yes, see? We'll do our Dreadstalkers. We'll do our empowerment. We'll do our instant shadow bolt. We'll do one more shadow bolt. We'll do some more imps. We'll do an empowerment. We'll do our instant shadow bolt. We'll do one more. We'll do our Hand of Gul'dan. We'll do our empowerment. We'll do our instant shadow bolt. We'll do a life tap real quick here. Probably should have life tapped earlier. We'll do our Dreadstalkers. So this build here has so much single target nonsense, I feel. I should have empowered there, right there. Empower. And this build, honestly, might be able to get you a lot of demons out for Thal'kiel to consume as well. We'll do this instant shadow bolt. Oh my goodness, we're at 5 shards. We'll do this, and we'll instant shadow bolt again. And we'll do it again. And we'll oh, I'm out of mana. We'll empower. And we'll shadow bolt. And we'll life tap. And then we'll Dreadstalkers. And then we'll... Yes! So I probably had 4 Hand of Gul'dans out there at one point before the first set fell away. So let me look at the combat log there real quick. We just, you know... Look how many interactions are happening every 1 second. Yeah, I had how many firebolts happening in 1 second? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I think it's 2 Hand of Gul'dans. Then there's another right here. This one is offset by a little bit of time. This is 2 different Hand of Gul'dans as well. So you can see this kind of setup with Power Trip and Dreadstalkers and Shadow Inspiration is just like, it just goes and 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 goes. It never stops. It never stops. Soul Harvest, which was been rechanged. This increases your damage and your pet's damage by 20% for 10 seconds, increasing by 2% for each target afflicted by your doom, up to a maximum of 30 seconds. So this, because you can't take Hand of Doom here, this gives you another cooldown to burst with. So you could use Dreadstalkers and Shadow Flame if you want to, or Inspiration, whatever you prefer for more burst. You can put up a couple Dooms or like 1 Doom on a boss to gain at least 2 more seconds. And you could, what you'll do is you want to summon, you would probably want a Hand of Gul'dan, build the Hand of Gul'dan, Dreadstalkers, Soul Harvest, and then Thal'kiel, right? To put more burst into a window of time. But this gives you an actual on-demand use of a burst cooldown, because you don't have anything baseline other than your Doomguard or Infernal. So Soul Harvest used to be that you channeled for like 2 seconds and you gained 5 soul shards, which was kind of just like, for all the Warlock specs, it was a little bit toxic because you would just like, your burst windows were insane. Because for the Demonology Warlock now, you could like Hand of Gul'dan, Harvest, Hand of Gul'dan, build Hand of Gul'dan. And you can see how that could be a problem with Implosion for like burst damage. And tying it to a 2-minute cooldown was kind of bleh. So this buffs you and your pet, giving you an actual damage, a little amplification there. It has a little bit of an animation going on too. You have the aura around you. Your pet doesn't actually get anything, but he does have the increased damage. Because your damage is increased, which means your pet's damage will be increased as well. I kind of feel like I hope that they fix that to make the little aura actually animate around your pet, but... Grimoire of Service is another burst cooldown as well. Talking about burst. So a 90-second cooldown where you will summon a second demon, which will fight for you for 25 seconds and deal 100% increased damage. On a 90-second cooldown, the demon immediately uses one of its special abilities when summoned. So your Felguard will stun the target. It will not use Brostorm, but it's a double damage Felguard. So that gives a Grimoire of Service is a burst cooldown here. I'm not going to summon it because it goes on cooldown, but you'll get the extra Felguard. You can just pull your Grimoire Felguard out onto the bar, for example. But if you're in a very short period of time where you need to do some damage, you can stack, you know, Shadow Flame, Improved Dreadstalkers, Soul Harvest, Grimoire of Service, and summon a bunch of demons. And then you can just have an extra burst window of time. Like on the Heart of Il'gynoth, for example, you could really utilize that to have more burst. And of course, the more demons you have out, that you have buffed with your Demonic Empowerment for more HP, the more damage your Thal'kiel will do, also doing more burst single target damage. Also, you have Synergy, which Synergy is probably your AoE talent of choice, I imagine. So the damage done by you and your demon has a chance to grant the other one a 40% increase in damage for 15 seconds. This does amplify Implosion. This doesn't actually improve the damage of your imps or anything like that, because it only works on your pet, like your main pet right now. But it gives you 40% more damage on the Implosion rotation, which is why I think this is your AoE talent. Because no one's going to take Supremacy and utilize the Infernal. Like, let's be real. So, it's a huge bonus. It's really powerful. They buff the crap out of it because it has a little bit of an RNG potential involved, where it's not always going to be out there. But I mean, if you're rotating in Implosions and you're building Soul Shards with Demon Wrath, you're going to be able to Hand of Gul'dan, Empower, Demon Wrath, Hand of Gul'dan, blow up your imps, Empower, Demon Wrath, like, and every time you have the synergy buff that your pet gives you, you're doing 40% increased damage, which will equal out to probably be like almost all the time, depending on how, you know, much your pet wants to RNG you, but you can get really great strings of time where you're doing all that rotational stuff with 40% increased damage. And then Supremacy, Grimoire of Supremacy, just gives you a permanent Doomguard or a permanent Infernal. The Doomguard and the Infernal you have that are permanent are weaker than their 3-minute cooldown counterparts from a burst standpoint, of course, but again, you can buff this guy. He's going to fire those Doom Bolts off like a railgun forever. And then, of course, the Expendables from your artifact will also buff him. So, even more damage all the time. Very single target. I think Supremacy will be good for leveling because you get the stronger Infernal. It did, of course, cost 1 Soul Shard. Your Infernal has a this Burning Presence where it gives it dodge and parry and 20% passive reduction in physical damage taken. So it also has an AoE stun, and then it has its avoidance. Of course, all pets have that. It has its AoE, it has its offensive purge. And it has Seath, which is your high generation attack, target taunt kind of deal. And then when you actually do the pet attack, that's when it does the Meteor Strike, the AoE stun. Actually, he casts it automatically by himself. What a butt. Oh, you can have it auto-cast, so you probably want to turn that off. Oops. But your Voidwalker has the same HP as your Infernal, but I'm pretty sure your Infernal is the much tankier version. So it's going to have, of course, the same Soul Leech shield that'll start going up when you give it the HP bonus, but same HP, but I'm pretty sure this is the more tanky of your pets. Also, its AoE radius is crazy. Get me in combat there, boyo. Unsummon you so I get out of combat so I can move my talents around. You crazy. And lastly, your last talent here. These are kind of straightforward. Not really a lot to talk about on either of these. You've seen Soul Conduit in action over and over again. It's just a quality of life improvement for giving you RNG Soul Shards whenever you spend them. Soul Conduit for the Demonology Warlock, though, I think is kind of a lot better than Affliction, because Affliction can spend 1 shard, 1 shard, 1 shard, 1 shard, 1 shard, 1 shard on UA, right? But for Demonology, you spend 2 on Dreadstalkers, or 4 on Hand of Gul'dan. And I don't know exactly if you Demonic Calling with Soul Conduit is not very good, because these don't cost you Soul Shards. But again, if you're using Demonic Calling with Implosion, for example, you'll be able to cast more 4-stacked Hand of Gul'dans because this doesn't cost you anything. But it won't refund you randomly, too, because it doesn't cost anything, right? So, up to you, of course, in that rotation thing. But you have Demon Bolt. Whereas Demon Bolt, again, with Grimoire of Synergy, most likely for single target damage or service for burst, or even maybe Supremacy for single target if you're running the Doomguard there. But Doom Bolt will draw energy from your demons and launch a ball of demonic energy at the target. This replaces Shadow Bolt. It costs less mana. It actually deals just barely more damage baseline. Let me make sure. I think it's the exact same damage of Shadow Bolt baseline, but it costs less mana. Let me double check. Because, let's see, Shadow Bolt does 17,440. Yeah, same amount of damage, but it costs less mana. Same cast time, but the more demons you have out, it does 20% increased damage. So, it looks awesome. I think it's still broken. Yeah, it's still bugged. It's bugged right now. Every time you cast Demon Bolt, it sends a Demon Bolt at your pet for some reason. which I hope is not intentional because it looks really awkward. Like here, I'll summon more demons real quick and you'll see what I mean. But it should have a reverse effect. See, this is ridiculous. But the more demons you have active, that's 136k crit right there. The more demons you have active, the more damage your Demon Bolt will do. So this gives you a little bit more power as the Warlock. Shadow Inspiration gives you those instant casts after you use your Demonic Empowerment, for example. But very single target oriented. Improved Dreadstalkers right off the bat is even more damage because you get 4 demons for the price of 2 shards. So very good. You could use Service because you'll have an extra demon out to give you a little bit more damage as well. But this is all like numbers, right? Is 40% more damage randomly better for Demon Bolt, or an extra demon for Burst, or a passive stronger demon than your Felguard? I have no idea. But Demon Bolt looks awesome. Some people think it looks incredibly awkward, but they need to fix the fact that it sends out a bolt at your pet as well. If anything else, it should do a smaller version of it during the cast time into you and then out of you, which maybe they're trying to do that, but they have the chain of command reversed right now, so maybe they'll fix that in the future. And then summon your Dark Glare. I'm going to go over here and just grab Hand of Doom real quick to show this off easier. Summon Dark Glare is another demon as well on a 24-second cooldown that lasts for 12 seconds. All of your summoned demons all last 12 seconds, unless they're your greater demons, your Doom Guard or Infernal Wells for 25, which is basically double, +1. So it launches eye lasers at all targets affected by your Doom, dealing shadow damage. Costs 1 soul shard. So your Dark Glare is your cleave and maybe burst, but I doubt it. It's a cleave ability. So he pops out next to you. Can you please move? Rawr. And his little eye laser thing bounces all over the place. It will bounce all over the place. Let me drop off some a Hand of Gul'dan over here real quick. So I don't know what the range is. Oh my goodness, those.
Fight, you pathetic imps!
There's Thal'kiel again. So here I have dooms on all these targets. Woo! So that's why it's a cleave talent, because it works well with Hand of Gul'dan for like AoE as well. But I wonder what's better for AoE, because using Summon Dark Glare and Hand of Doom and like Implosion could be like a full AoE build, but it's so AoE focused, like how the amount of maintenance you have to make sure that you have your Dooms up, your Imps out, your Imps exploding, but your Imps buffed beforehand, and your Dark Glare out, and your Dark Glare buff so it casts faster. Like, I'll show you what it does when it casts faster, because you can empower him. He's an instant cast. So you empower your Dark Glare, it casts even faster. So it's obviously the more targets you have out for your Dark Glare to cast upon is really better. But I think you need to take Hand of Doom with this directly, because you need to be able to AoE those Dooms out there. But I don't know how it would work out with Implosion as well for more AoE, because you have so many like if then this modifiers to cast with everything you're doing. And Dark Glare, I almost think its cooldown is too low, because you have to keep it like every cooldown cast it, but you have to make sure that your Imps are out, your Imps are buffed, and you're ready to buff your Dark Glare, and your Dooms are out, and like all these things, right? I don't play ranged classes, so I get a little flustered. You may play a ranged class and you're like, oh, this is totally easy, babe. What are you talking about? Child's play. Button here. And, you know, I don't know. You could, or you could be like, oh, damn. Because there's a learning curve involved here with the Demonology Warlock that I think is you lost your Metamorphosis. I know you lost that whole, you know, different form window thing, but I think you haven't lost the skill cap. Because these talent combinations have so many options. I hope they're actually options. You're not just taking one spec for everything or one spec for AoE, and you can move things around. And the playstyle can change a bit, and the rotation feels differently based on talents, and I hope that's how it happens. Well, thank you all so much for watching. That is the Demonology Warlock. Leave a like on this video if you got all the way through. And if you did get all the way through as well, leave me your best imp jokes. So utilizing words that have imp in it, or like this tier, Implosion, Imp Proved Dreadstalkers, Imp Pending Doom, Imp Raider. I can't wait to hear your imp jokes in the comments below. Also, correct me on things that I'm wrong about. Let me know how you think of the new Demonology Warlock looks in Legion. Oh boy, I'm gonna go take a nap because my brain right now is just like, ugh! Not really. I'm gonna go probably make another video. Thank you for watching. I will see you all in the next Legion testing video.